We're advancing. Perfect. Good morning, everyone. I'm Tracy Saya-Gabriel, President and Executive Director of the National Landing Business Improvement District. I think you'll have a little deja vu when I speak. Both Maura and I are probably very big on talking about growth and understanding how the importance of the mix of uses and thinking about the future of downtowns, especially. So for me, I joined the National Landing bid 4 years ago. So 2/3 of my bid life have been pandemic. So it's sometimes hard to distinguish what is pandemic and what is bid to me and the work that we're doing, because this is just the environment we're navigating now. And the other note I want to make is that I come at this as an urban planner. That's the hat that I wear, which is particularly relevant given the kind of development and transformation that my area is undergoing. So just to familiarize you with what National Landing is, I think, how many people in the room know National Landing? All right, that's a good poll there. But really, one of the other things we did during the pandemic was introduce National Landing as an overarching name for our downtown. Thank you, Rachel. And you know, that is the 3 neighborhoods of Crystal City, Pentagon City, and Potomac Yard, both in Arlington and Alexandria, but we represent the Arlington portion of the district. And what's unique about unifying this area is that it is actually Virginia's largest downtown. It's on the same scale as downtown Austin or Oakland, set to be a downtown Miami shortly. It's also set to be the fastest growing district in the entire DC region, although our numbers are very close, Maura. So, it's a really exciting time, as well as the fact that we have major anchors coming to the area. We have Amazon's HQ2, Virginia Tech's Innovation Campus, a global headquarters for Boeing. All of these things are about kind of the 4th industrial revolution and talking about, the digital transformation and how we stand as a space for innovation. But I wanted to note that, for us, we not only, expanded our boundaries, we really doubled our budget. We tripled the size of our staff. Our geographic area is significantly larger. We're now about 1 square mile. And we don't do traditional clean and safe. We are really about activations and about advocacy. So you'll hear a little bit more about that. But when I talk about new approaches for National Landing, we're thinking about it during the pandemic, and we're thinking about it now if we are in post-pandemic world or whatever this is. What are the ingredients that were the ingredients for resilience during the pandemic, and what do we think are going to be the factors and ingredients for successful post-pandemic downtowns? And a lot of what you see here is really just good urbanism, right? That's what we're trying to build. We're trying to build place, and the more we build place, we're kind of making it more attractive, continue to invest and activate places. But we think for us, our resilience factor has been the mix of uses. So we have a 1-to-1 ratio of jobs to residents in our area. Even though we're known mostly for office, we're actually completely balanced. And we look at the pipeline. Our pipeline is $12 billion of investment, and that's 8,000 units of housing coming to our area, as well as a lot of office and commercial. But it's that balance, we think, that has sustained us and created that on the street activity and made it a really comfortable place to be even during the pandemic. But we're making strides on all these fronts to move our work forward. But I wanted to look at and talk to you about where we've leaned in that I think might be unique areas within the bid landscape, and that is on mobility and equity. So next generation mobility. This is a area of passion for folks at our bid. If you don't know our area, we did evolve as a very car-centric place originally. We have, great bones for transportation, but we believe that the future is multimodal, and the more that we invest in transportation and the transformation of our built environment for next generation mobility, we're going to be placed to be a more competitive district in the future. And why is this important in the pandemic environment? Well, if you can recall, really 2.5 years ago, no one was taking transit. People were turning their backs on transportation. And we felt like it was necessary for us to double down on our narrative and our push behind next generation mobility. And that's important because we also have $4 billion in transportation projects in our immediate vicinity. So that was on the line as well. So the first area I want to talk about is about being a champion for big ideas around infrastructure. So we started that before the pandemic with the CC to DCA multimodal connection, which is, if you've seen it, the rendering of the bridge from our main street to the airport, transformative piece of infrastructure. But we felt like that was a great model. So during the pandemic, we said, what's our next big move to champion? And that was really reestablishing Route 1 through our district as a safe, attractive, green urban boulevard. We're fortunate that Virginia Department of Transportation had this as a project, but there wasn't a unified vision about what it could be. So we actually set about doing a study called Reimagine Route 1, and we put out there, case studies, renderings, a whole, understanding and a goal for what that project could be, both to inspire the community to come along, but also to, tell the highway planners how to really think about this critical piece of infrastructure in an urban environment. So championing ideas was important. Building coalitions. So one thing that we also realized is new ways of communicating with people during the pandemic was important. Again, with Route 1 in mind, we launched People Before Cars campaign. And we did that by doing, building size banners and also stickers, sidewalk stickers, temporary installations, social media campaign, a website. Really, we were trying to get people engaged, aware, and excited about a future that puts people before cars, and also to transform those people into advocates directly to VDOT to tell them about the future as they saw it, which was really important to balance out the voices around this critical infrastructure. And the exciting thing is we not only did campaign, we took it one step further. We actually built a coalition. So between our largest property owner, the bid, and major advocates in transportation united with us to join a People Before Cars coalition, knowing that we have $4 billion in transportation projects. How could we all raise our voices unified together to say we want the best in class design for every one of those, starting with Route 1. And so that includes WABA, Coalition for Smart Growth. We have the gamut of regional players, as well as many of those focused on micromobility within our area. One of the things that I think we do as bids, and it's really important, is storytell, right? So there's all these great transportation projects happening in our area. There is, half dozen to a dozen entities responsible for those. So nobody is telling a unified message. Engineers are great at designing projects, but they're not great at telling people why it's so important and how it all fits together. So in January of 2021, we launched our Mobility Next report, and that brought together a complete vision and picture for all the transportation projects, which we felt collectively could easily be able to claim that we are set to become the most connected downtown in the country. And sort of setting that bar and that narrative and bringing everyone along for what that vision could yield. And then typically, as you know, many of us are engaged in temporary placemaking and creative placemaking. But one of the things we thought about a lot during our homecoming campaign is how are we going to bring people back to transit when we saw a steep fall off? And our goal was get people back in offices and in our district. We need to make it exciting and pleasant to take transit again. So the first thing we looked at is our Crystal City Metro Plaza was really hurting. We had a blank retaining wall, pretty insufficient lighting, and just a generally kind of unpleasant pass-through experience. So we decided that we would go beyond, creative placemaking to deliver a capital project there. So it was our largest investment in doing some permanent work in the area. And this was actually implemented, broke ground last year and it got completed in the spring, which is so fun to see people actually linger there and utilize the space. So important. It's a major place where people change modes. So in terms of, mobility, passion area, but also I think the pandemic helped to crystallize our vision for, how are you going to achieve more equitable outcomes? I think we feel like we have a lot of responsibility in our area for being stewards of a, major transformation of an urban district. And if we're to do that well, we want to make sure that there are shared benefits of growth and development. And we were having conversations around diversity, equity, and inclusion well before the pandemic. But I think, the racial reckoning that was taking place in 2020 helped to bring everyone in our organization along. So we did everything from, create board trainings to an equity committee to outreach in the community, just a very long list of ways in which we engaged both our organization and the public and our board in how we're going to be a model for how bids can commit to diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so the culmination of that was a plan that we put out, Equity Forward. It's an action plan. It's a blueprint for how we are going to achieve our diversity, equity, and inclusion goals from an organizational perspective, from a programmatic perspective, and from an outreach perspective. And we actually put targets in there for us to achieve and measure ourselves along the way. And I think for me, this is exciting because we were looking for other bids to show us the way and we couldn't find it. So, we're always happy to share this work because we think it's really important. It doesn't stop now that we might be post-pandemic. We're thinking about how we bring this lens to everything that we do. And then just to end on, I think that in terms of bringing the lens, I think that all the work that we've done in the last 2.5 years is probably about creating new lenses for how we view all of our work. And I know one of the questions you have today is, how do we sustain that? What does it mean for the future? For us, we're thinking about it in terms of our strategic plan. How do we go back and say, even though many of the things are the same, a lot of things are different, and how can we, take the best of what we've learned and apply it to our future planning? So thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Tracy. Amazing. I just want to